Ace's death was one of the most heartbreaking deaths in all of One Piece. It literally had thousands of fans worldwide crying for days. But this got me thinking, just what would have happened if Ace listened to Whitebeard's advice and did not chase Blackbeard? Could he avoid being turned into a donut by Akainu? Would Marineford even have happened? What would have happened with Blackbeard's plan? And most importantly, how would this change the entire storyline? Well, to answer any of those questions, we must go all the way back to the very beginning, when Blackbeard kills Dash, snatches the Yami Yami no Mi for himself, and defects from the Whitebeard pirates. He broke the sacred Whitebeard code of not killing another crew member. Out of duty and pride, Ace decided to pursue and defeat Blackbeard. However, just as he was about to leave, Whitebeard ordered him not to go. In the original timeline, Ace disobeyed Whitebeard's orders and left the crew to pursue Blackbeard. This time, however, when Whitebeard orders Ace to stay, he listens. Of course, Ace would still be furious, but out of respect for his captain and father figure, he decides to stay. As we know in the original story, Ace did not listen to Whitebeard and became a donut as a result of that. So a question got me thinking, which I thought of asking Ace directly for an answer. What donut flavor are you?
I'm the kind that leaves a mark.
Yeah, I sure as heck can believe that this left a mark. And how can you talk to your favorite anime characters as well? By downloading Polybuzz AI, you can chat with over 1 million anime characters. And not only that, but literally anything you want. I mean, what better than chatting with your favorite waifus like Nami, Robin, Zoro, or Boa? Whether you want to ask Nami more details about her happiness punch, or whether you want to ask Goldie Roger what the One Piece really is, all you have to do is download Polybuzz AI and start chatting with your favorite anime characters about anything and everything. Plus, you can even create your very own AI characters, personalize their traits, and chat with them about anything you want. And yeah, knowing you as anime fans, you will never get bored of this app. And by using my code AKA77, you get access to 3 days premium membership completely free of charge. Use my link in the description down below to download Polybuzz AI and start chatting with your favorite anime characters today. Believe me, you will not regret it. But now, let's get back to our video. Here, it's important to point out that in the original story, Blackbeard never wanted to specifically capture Ace in the first place. In fact, he probably had his eyes set on Luffy or any other high-profile individual who could also probably work. His original plan was a multi-stage scheme to become a warlord. First, he needed to capture a high-bounty pirate to gain access to Impel Down. Then, he'd recruit powerful inmates there to form a strong crew. And finally, he'd take advantage of a strong devil fruit user dying or being put close to death so that he could take the devil fruit and ascend as an emperor. At this point, Luffy had already defeated Crocodile, increasing his bounty from 30 million berries to 100 million berries. Exactly what Blackbeard needed. After defeating Crocodile, Luffy and the Straw Hats sail all the way to Mocktown on the Jaya Island. Here, they are encountered by Blackbeard, who at the time did not know that Luffy had gained a 100 million berry bounty and thus fit into Blackbeard's condition. Once Blackbeard found out and went after him, however, the Knockup Stream intervened, sending the Straw Hats flying into the sky and preventing an epic fight before it truly began. Meaning that Blackbeard's new targets, since Luffy escaped and Ace is not after him now, are a few. First requirement, a bounty of over 100 million berries. Second requirement, not overly strong, as Blackbeard needed to win against them in a fight. Third requirement, within reach, meaning not surrounded by an overly strong crew or not missing somewhere they cannot be found. Fourth requirement, an active crew that can cause havoc and Impel Down so that Blackbeard can jump in and steal inmates for his crew. So, with all these in mind, let's take a look at the options Blackbeard has. First of all, Emperors are out of the question. They're way too strong for him at this point. The same goes for crew members of the Emperors, unless these pirates come themselves after Blackbeard and thus leave themselves exposed. Blackbeard has no way to get them, given their crew strength. So pirates like Ace, Jozu, Vista, Marco the Phoenix, who all have bounties over 100 million, are not options for Blackbeard. The same goes for warlords. If a warlord is defeated and captured by Blackbeard, even though some of them are arguably stronger than him, like Mihawk for example, even if Blackbeard managed to capture them, the world government would not kill them, as they have active agreements with these pirates. So, no warlords either. This leaves Blackbeard with the following 10 options: Luffy, Bonnie, Law, Uroge, Bege, X-Drake, Apu, Hawkins, Kid, and Enel. When it comes to Enel, he's out of the question because, as far as we know, this guy is currently on the moon, and thus, not within Blackbeard's reach. So let's take a look at what would happen if each of those remaining cases was targeted by Blackbeard. Let's start with Luffy. Blackbeard tracks him down and eventually finds him. Now, it is important to remember that this version of Luffy is extremely weak. He has no gears and no haki. And obviously, Luffy was significantly weaker than Ace, that, remember, lost to this version of Blackbeard in the original story. Meanwhile, Blackbeard had just killed a commander of the Whitebeard pirates and possessed the most evil devil fruit in history. Blackbeard defeats Luffy effortlessly here. Luffy throws a Gomu Gomu no pistol, but Blackbeard uses Black Vortex to suck him in, grabs him, nullifies his rubber powers, and slams him to the ground. Zoro and Sanji try to intervene, but they are stopped by Van Augur and Burgess. The Blackbeard pirates beat the Straw Hats badly, but leave them alive because of two reasons. First, they only need the captain's head for Blackbeard's plans, and second, they want the Straw Hats to create havoc and impel down later on. And well, this is exactly what happens. Luffy is imprisoned, and the Straw Hats decide to break him out. The Blackbeard pirates take advantage of the situation and the chaos created, and thus Blackbeard manages to recruit more inmates for his crew, similar to what he did in the original story. Here, however, the Straw Hats are not successful in freeing Luffy, the same way that Luffy was not successful in freeing Ace in the original story. But the Straw Hats do manage to escape in time, and thus their next goal is to free Luffy during Marineford. But, well, let's just say that in front of the players that will actually arrive in Marineford, the Straw Hats are nothing but small fry. And why is that? Because first and foremost, the one group who arrives in Marineford in Luffy's rescue is of course Dragon and the Revolutionary Army. Not only that, Whitebeard did manage to convince Ace to not go after Blackbeard a while ago, but now he cannot convince him to not go to Marineford to save Luffy. Here, Whitebeard would again try to convince him not to. I mean, after all, Whitebeard cares about his own family and does not want to see Ace risking his life. But once Ace says that there is no way he will let one of his own family members die, Whitebeard understands there is no convincing him otherwise. After all, if anything, Whitebeard is the first who can understand the meaning family has. Even more than that, Whitebeard here would not let Ace go alone. Unlike when Ace went after Blackbeard, now Whitebeard knows exactly where Ace will be. Also knows that if he does not protect him, Ace will most definitely be killed. So Whitebeard does not really have any other choice but to join Ace as well. And since Whitebeard will come, Blackbeard will do so as well, just in case Whitebeard is killed to then continue his plans in the same way he did in the original story. Here, however, other than Ace and the Whitebeard pirates, well, let's just say that this is just the beginning. Since Whitebeard would come, so would Kaido. And since Kaido would try that, Shanks would intervene the same way that happened in the original story. But hear this, when the Revolutionary Army arrives in Marineford, since Sabo will be with them, this would cause Sabo's memories to return once he saw Luffy and Ace from up close. As a result, the three brothers would reunite in Marineford, something that we unfortunately never got in the original story. But before that, Luffy would have to be free. And well, let's just say that things do seem quite positive here. I mean, the Revolutionary Army is considered one of the most dangerous groups in One Piece, with Dragon being hyped as one of the strongest individuals out there. But with all those people here, can they really free Luffy? Well, I'd say a pretty comfortable yes, in my opinion. I mean, in the place of Luffy, we have Ace that is supposed to be stronger than Luffy. And on top of that, we also have a bunch of members from the Revolutionary Army alongside Dragon himself. Luffy's rescue team has more than enough powerful members to successfully save Ace. The real question here is, would Whitebeard have to sacrifice his life in the process? I actually think that no. Given all the help he would have here, Whitebeard would not even have to sacrifice his life. Now, when Luffy escapes, there are a few things we need to consider. First of all, imagine the emotion of Ace going through a brutal war to save his brother, only to find out that the other brother he thought was long gone by now, aka Sabo, is also alive and also came there to free Luffy. Ace was hoping to save his one remaining brother, and in the end, he escaped the war having two brothers. And Luffy, on the other hand, went from not knowing whether he would survive to seeing his long-lost brother he thought was dead come to his rescue. Here, the time skip happens in a similar way as the original story, as now the Straw Hats realize they need to get stronger before proceeding to the new world. When it comes to Blackbeard's plans now, well, he's still left with only one devil fruit, and thus his plans are quite delayed. So what's his next move? All the way to Wano, when Kaido is defeated, he makes his move and steals the devil fruit of not only Kaido, but Big Mom as well, acquiring one of each insanely powerful Logia, Paramecia, and Zoan devil fruits. After this event, the four emperors are Luffy, Whitebeard, Blackbeard, and Shanks, with the difference basically being that Buggy is not an emperor in this version of the story. Whitebeard is pretty much off the race of being the pirate king, while Shanks' motives still remain a mystery. The main candidates to become the next king here are again Luffy and Blackbeard, since Ace is also not interested in becoming the pirate king. In that timeline, well, things ended pretty casually. But what if Bonnie was the one who was put in Blackbeard's radar instead of Luffy? She fits all the requirements: over 100 million bounty, someone who would cause havoc and impel down, aka Kuma, and not overly strong so that he can't defeat her. Blackbeard targets Bonnie, and as we can easily understand, Bonnie is a very easy target against him. Bonnie, still a rising supernova with her age fruit and a sharp instinct for survival, would open by trying to age Blackbeard's subordinates into useless husks and turning herself into a child or elder to try and go into hiding. But once she drew Teach's focus, the balance would tilt fast. Even without his later power-ups, Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi would swallow her devil fruit abilities on contact, dragging her in with crushing gravity and leaving her frighteningly ordinary in his grasp. Once Bonnie is taken captive and given to the world government for execution, the only friend Bonnie has left at this stage is, of course, Kuma. However, there is a catch here that not even Blackbeard knows. Kuma already struck a deal with the world government. In exchange for him being their test subject and warlord, Bonnie will be left off the hook, even though she has a bounty on her head. Once she's turned over to the world government, orders from higher up come to let her go, as they still need Kuma's compliance in their plans. This plan backfires for Blackbeard, since now he has no crew, no warlord or emperor status, and no strong second devil fruit. The result, Blackbeard goes after the next target. And who's our next target in the list? That would be X-Drake. You see, the Drake pirates are strong enough for Blackbeard to have them cause havoc and impel down. Drake has a bounty of over 100 million berries, and he is considered not strong enough to be a problem. Drake is an extremely formidable combatant. He stopped a fight between two other supernovas with just one move, effortlessly defeated a super rookie, and was one of the few pirates on the Subodi archipelago capable of injuring a pacifista without outside help. Even though Blackbeard did not know it at the time, Drake has always been a capable Marine, who would, as we see in the anime, later assume the position of a rear admiral. He ate the Ryu no Mi model Allosaurus, an ancient Zoan-type devil fruit that allows the user to transform into an Allosaurus hybrid and a full Allosaurus at will. The major strength of this fruit is that it allows the user to transform into an Allosaurus, a large and powerful theropod dinosaur from the prehistoric era. And as a carnivorous ancient Zoan, the fruit grants them features much better suited to close combat than basic Zoans, such as sharp teeth and claws. As is the case with every other Zoan ability, the user can also become a human-animal hybrid at will. But given Blackbeard's overpowered Yami no Mi devil fruit, we assume he manages to defeat him, capture him, and give him to the world government. But well, he did miscalculate again, because as we already mentioned, Drake is an undercover Marine, meaning there will be no execution, and he will most definitely not be put in impel down. Blackbeard did all of these, once again, for nothing. But what if he now attacks another member of the worst generation, Law? This is once again an interesting one. Law ticks all the boxes. Over 100 million berry bounty, strong enough crew to cause havoc and impel down, not overly strong to the point he can't be defeated, and of course, within reach. We saw a similar fight taking place in recent anime episodes, but that fight was quite more advanced, with Blackbeard being an active Yonko and Law having just defeated, with the help of Kid, another Yonko. However, we saw that between the two, Blackbeard still came out on top. Plus, if we compare the power boost Law and Blackbeard received throughout the story, Law probably had more difference in power when compared to Blackbeard, who was already defeating characters like Ace and giving Shanks a scar on his eye even before consuming the Yami no Mi. So between the two of them, I do feel like Blackbeard would win this. But what happens as a result of that? Well, first of all, Blackbeard steals his devil fruit and then hands him over to the world government. Here, a small question does arise though, since we still don't know how Blackbeard steals a devil fruit power exactly. So when Blackbeard does that, does that mean that Law dies because of the extraction? Or not necessarily? Well, since we're not so sure at the time of making this video, for the purposes of our argument, we'll assume that Law remains alive after the extraction and is later handed over to the world government. Once the world government gets Law in their hands, they try to make him use the immortality surgery in order to hand to someone important in their ranks immortality. However, once they realize that his devil fruit is no longer with him, things are different. He's thrown into impel down and announced to the whole world that a prestigious member of the worst generation is captured and about to be publicly executed. His crewmates try to free him and impel down, which is exactly what Blackbeard was waiting for in order to recruit more inmates. Blackbeard succeeds in that, while at that time, Law is not freed, and thus sent to Marineford for the execution. And well, Law does not really have anyone powerful enough at this point who would come to his aid. He's not yet formed any alliances with the Straw Hats, his crew is not strong enough to free him in Marineford, and as a result, Law is indeed publicly executed. And what's the result of that in the rest of the One Piece story? Well, after Punk Hazard, Luffy's path is basically a mystery, because the one who urged him to go after Doflamingo and then Kaido is none other than Law. Without his plan, Luffy's plans are a mystery, but we will say that him not encountering the opponents he did in the order he did in the original story might prove fatal, because Blackbeard right now has eaten 2 devil fruits, and if he somehow finds out that Luffy's devil fruit is a god fruit, same way he learned about the secret abilities of the Yami no Mi, then maybe Blackbeard will go after Luffy. And since Luffy's not strong enough to defeat Blackbeard yet, I mean, after all, he did not fight Doflamingo, Big Mom, or Kaido, Luffy would lose, and Blackbeard would steal his devil fruit as well. Once that happens, well, Blackbeard's on the way to become the next pirate king, and things do look pretty bad for the One Piece world. And yet, we still have 5 more cases to check, with the next in line being Uroge. Okay, here we're actually going to be pretty brief, because Uroge, as of now, has not made any major appearances in the story. We don't know his full abilities, strength, allies, motives, backstory, nothing. So us saying what would happen in his case is pretty much impossible. So we'll have to skip this case for the time being. The next in line now is Capone Bege. Capone Gang Bege is a mafia turned pirate and the captain of the Fire Tank Pirates. His devil fruit is the Shiro Shiro no Mi, a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to become a living fortress, making the user a castle human. The inside of their body holds many openings, including cannon ports and drawbridges. The user can even hold living people inside their body by shrinking their sizes as long as they're within the vicinity of the user. When the objects and people within the user get out, they return to their normal size. Once someone enters this aura, they automatically get sucked into the castle. When the user grows to unleash the fortress's full size, the shrinking effect is nulled. But none of these abilities mean it's something that can hurt Blackbeard. Blackbeard defeats him, hands him over to the world government. When his crew tries to free him, Blackbeard takes advantage of the situation and recruits inmates similar to in the original story. Now, the only difference with the rest of the story is that Ace is still alive, same as Whitebeard, and Blackbeard has only one devil fruit. The next one in line is Scratchman Apu. Apu is the captain of the On-Air Pirates and a powerful devil fruit user. He ate the Oto Oto no Mi, a paramecia type devil fruit which allows the user to transform parts of their body into musical instruments and play music with a variety of destructive effects. By transforming their body parts into instruments, such as turning teeth into piano keys or an arm into a trumpet and playing specific notes and tunes, the user can release music that causes damaging effects to their opponents, the type of damage being determined by what tune they play. There are a wide range of attacks the user can perform, from physical strikes like punches and slashes, which can dismember victims, to elemental attacks like explosions. But having said that, Blackbeard would still be able to win. And well, the situation once that happens is again similar to that of Bege. No other major differences in the story after that. But what if now we check the case of Eustace Kid? Well, for starters, Kid does check all the boxes to be a target of Blackbeard. Strong, but not too strong. Strong enough crew to cause havoc and impale down. And of course, a bounty of over 100 million. So with that in mind, Blackbeard attacks, defeats him, and hands over Kid to the world government. Now, if you noticed in one of our previous videos, we talked about the theory that Kid is somewhat related to Vegapunk. So if that theory is indeed true, we're not quite sure how his capture would play out, given Vegapunk's cooperation with the world government at the time. But given that we still strongly believe that Vegapunk is indeed related to Kid, we will go ahead and say that Kid is let go free as a result, meaning that Blackbeard's plan failed once again, even if he had no way of knowing these secrets regarding Kid. And for the final point of today's video, we have Hawkins. Basil Hawkins is an infamous pirate from the North Blue, known as the Magician, and a captain of the Hawkins Pirates. He ate the Wara Wara no Mi, or straw fruit in English. It's a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to create and manipulate straw at will, with the straw having damage redirecting properties. His fruit's main ability is the capacity to create and manipulate straw, which seems to have a broad variety of applications. At its most basic, the straw can serve as a holding device, as well as act as sharp weapons. By producing a larger amount of straw, the user can cover themselves in it to enhance their fighting capabilities, or create a large straw monster with which to attack their foes. When using these techniques, the user is also seemingly able to manifest nails and use them as accompanying weapons. But again, we believe that Blackbeard's ability to nullify devil fruit abilities would allow him to defeat Hawkins. When that happens, well, the case is pretty much similar to the one of Apu and Capone Bege. So naturally, we're not going to tire you with all the details by repeating it. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and click on this video next for more great anime content. Go on, check it out!